As you may already know, my name's Clare Baker and I'm a former clutterholic and borderline hoarder. I successfully cleared all my clutter over 20 years ago without the need for an expensive home visit. And I've been helping people around the world do exactly the same ever since, so that they too can know what it's like to live a completely clutter-free life forever. As a result of working with clutterholics and hoarders for over 20 years, I've noticed that many of us have some characteristics in common. One of these is that many of us avoid uncomfortable emotions. Experiencing uncomfortable emotions is an inescapable reality of being human, yet many of us instinctively shy away from confronting these feelings. Whether it's fear, sadness, guilt, or shame, these emotions often carry a weight that feels unbearable. As a result, we develop coping mechanisms, some subtle and hidden, some physical and obvious, like our physical clutter. We do that to avoid facing and dealing with the root causes of our discomfort. For many of us who struggle with clutter, this avoidance and bottling up of our uncomfortable feelings turns into anger, distraction through busyness or technology, or even self-sabotaging behaviours. Yet underneath these reactions lies a deeper truth. Facing our uncomfortable feelings often requires vulnerability, introspection, and a willingness to sit with emotional discomfort, processes that can feel daunting or even threatening. By consciously or subconsciously avoiding these emotions, we may be able to temporarily avoid pain and discomfort, but we will suffer for it in the long term. Avoidance keeps us disconnected from our true selves, perpetuates patterns of emotional struggle, stifles our personal growth, and keeps us cluttered. Understanding why we avoid our uncomfortable feelings and learning how to acknowledge them and name them is the first step towards breaking the cycle by accepting that it's okay to feel them. We can then start to build healthy emotional resilience and improve our overall sense of well-being by dealing with our clutter. Here are 3 common reasons why we avoid our uncomfortable feelings. First is the fear of vulnerability. Uncomfortable feelings often require us to display a level of vulnerability that many find intimidating. Confronting emotions such as fear, sadness, guilt, or shame requires us to acknowledge and explore parts of ourselves, our lives, our past, and our present that we may prefer hidden, especially in relation to our clutter. Vulnerability feels risky because it opens the door to potential judgment, rejection, or misunderstanding. For those of us who have tried to share our clutter and our uncomfortable emotions with people we thought we could trust, and then being criticised or judged as a result, being vulnerable with our emotions and our clutter again, whether it's to the same person or someone else, can feel akin to stepping into a battlefield unarmed. To avoid feeling that vulnerability, we might resort to emotional defences such as anger or sarcasm, which act as shields, deflecting attention away from our deeper feelings and maintaining an illusion of control. We may also choose distractions such as a coping mechanism and distract ourselves with busyness, such as work, social media, social activities, people-pleasing, helping others and other activities, so that we can justify not having the time to acknowledge, process and manage our uncomfortable feelings. There are consequences to not allowing ourselves to be vulnerable though, even if it's only with ourselves. It can cause us to become emotionally numb, unable to respond appropriately to our own or other people's feelings, and can cause us to struggle to build genuine, honest, open, unconditional, and meaningful relationships. Yet the fear of being seen and potentially judged keeps us stuck in the cycle of avoiding our uncomfortable feelings. The second reason why those of us who struggle with clutter avoid uncomfortable feelings is because of emotional pain. The intensity of certain emotions can feel overwhelming and unbearable, especially grief, shame, and despair. When faced with such feelings that we are not comfortable or safe feeling and have never learnt how to manage effectively, we may feel that they are a threat to our emotional well-being. We worry that they will send us into the panic zone and we'll get stuck there indefinitely. No one wants to end up in the panic zone. We've been there enough already with our clutter. So it makes sense that we avoid uncomfortable feelings rather than confronting them, because our experiences tell us that they will send us into the panic zone. We may express our uncomfortable feelings that are triggered by our fear of emotional pain in several ways, such as anger, which feels more manageable and less vulnerable than grief, shame, and despair. Alternatively, we might cope by creating constant busyness that we can always justify, such as working, helping, or prioritizing others, people-pleasing, or distracting ourselves with social media, online games, chats, and so on. Although these coping strategies provide us with temporary relief from the fear of our feelings, they don't deal with the root causes of the emotional pain of our experiences in the past. The result is that we never learn how to process and manage these feelings. They continue to build like a volcano below the surface. We continue the cycle of avoidance, and eventually the pressure of that emotional pain finds another, more destructive and explosive way out. The third and final reason why those of us who struggle with clutter avoid uncomfortable feelings is because of the fear of change and disruption. Uncomfortable emotions are inherently linked to change. They often signal that something in our lives, whether external circumstances or internal beliefs, is out of alignment. Confronting these feelings can lead to significant changes and shifts in our lives, such as setting boundaries, walking away from unhealthy relationships, reevaluating our core values, or successfully clearing our clutter after years or decades of struggle. Although these may be personal life goals, the prospect of such significant change can feel intimidating. So we self-sabotage by avoiding the uncomfortable emotions that need to be dealt with to create the change that we want. Change disrupts the familiar, and humans are wired to seek stability and predictability. Even when the familiar is harmful and unfulfilling, it can appear safer than stepping into the unknown. Uncomfortable emotions serve as catalysts for change, for challenging this inertia, but their call for action is often met with resistance. We might justify our avoidance, dismissing uncomfortable feelings as overreactions or temporary phases that will pass on their own. But in reality, these are signs of denial. We pretend that the problem doesn't exist, or that things are better than they truly are. You can clear your clutter fast, or you can clear your clutter forever, but you can't clear your clutter forever fast. To find out how I can help you clear your clutter forever without the need for an expensive home visit, click on the link with this video now to find out how I can help you.